we are here today at one of my favorite spots, the Mick Brasserie in Scottsdale, which we will talk about over the course of the podcast. But today's episode is actually with the crew from WorldClass. Would you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. John Bergman. I'm the CEO, founder, owner of... co-founder, excuse me.
Sure.
Never want to piss off your other co-founder of WorldClass.com.
And Chef, you are with the Mick Brasserie. Go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
And I'm Brent Menke. I'm the chef owner, Mick Brasserie. Opened up here about a year and a half ago.
And I am one of your hosts today, Luke Irvin, along with my co-host, Eric Walters of A Taste of AZ magazine and podcast.
Hello.
And so before we jump into it, to kind of give a little explanation of who our two guests are here and why they're both on, even though they're from different companies, which isn't something we normally do. So would you consider yourself an importer? Is that the word you would use?
That's what we are.
So yeah, WorldClass, importing all sorts of amazing things from around the world. And of course, chefs use those in your food. So with that said, let's kind of jump into a little bit more beyond just the title of importer. What is WorldClass doing these days?
So we started with Argentina, right? The beef from Argentina. Then we moved into sea bass from Chile. And, then we went to Portugal. Right now we're exploring Japan. But basically we go into a country and we're primarily, more than half of our products are seafood oriented. And that's really the focus long term. Mm-hmm. We will nerd out on some smaller things like honey from the rainforest or dulce de leche, so on and so forth. Tea that the Dalai Lama drinks and Oprah. But we just go into a country. When I say we, me, myself, and my product people, and we'll explore. We'll hire some of the best chefs. We'll ask them, hey, what is the best in this country of the world? Because if there's something better in another country, we'll just wait till we get to that country. And then within that country, what's the best within this country? Because we're all the way through, we're not a two-tier company. We're both importing and distributing locally.
Okay.
We can then sell those products at the same type of price, even at higher qualities.
Whereas normally,
sometimes even less of a price.
Normally you would
often
have someone importing it and then a different organization would be distributing it to restaurants around.
Yeah, like pretty much every competitor, especially on the seafood side, but almost every competitor is not importing. Mm-hmm. They're buying from somebody else that's importing.
Okay. And so, that I figure is one of the things that has kind of paved your own unique path throughout founding this company. But what are, competitors, without discussing specific people necessarily, what are people typically doing? You kind of touched on it a little bit there, and what kind of sets you guys apart?
So again, we're looking for just the top, best quality of the world. Mm-hmm. We're not looking for sea bass that has water added to it. We're making sure it's line caught. We're really into sustainable products as well. So we're not catching sea bass with a net where you're pulling in dolphins, whales, other fish.
Yeah.
It's long line cut, which then the skin's not brushed as much either. There's no water added. So it's basically the best sea bass you can buy.
World class, you would say.
I would say it fits our name. Yes.
And so
you teed that up pretty high for me. Thank you.
Bringing in product on that level, but also having it more affordable than your competition allows you to partner with local chefs like yourself. Chef, go ahead and talk a little bit about where we are right now and maybe touch on one or two of the products that you bring in from these folks.
Well, my own background, I was a yacht chef, for a number of years, yachts, jets, villas, and I know that we were always in the business of trying to be able to find great ingredient, because at the end of the day, that kind of defines great food. If you start with great, you can always fail, but as long as you start with great, you give yourself the best chance to be able to succeed and make incredible product. And I think that's, another one of the reasons why I can be heading out to Italy this summer is, again, just to try to be able to get back to 5 ingredients on a mission. But I think that's kind of what Argentine and WorldClass does, is that they brought in truly world-class product. We can say that, their Chilean sea bass is the best. Their Palenque caviar that, they're getting from the Black River in Uruguay is probably one of the finest, farmed caviars that I've ever had. It doesn't taste, fish mealy like you get a lot of caviars do, where it's muddy. It's a nice pearl. It's firm. It's got that flavor. that caviar should have, like wild caviar should have, and I think you'd be hard pressed to know that it wasn't. But the same thing with like, the Argentinian, head-on red langoustines, that tenderness, the flavor, and especially the ability, like we're doing it the other day. We did a special with that where we did a duo side by side where it was, they were split, they were butter roasted, and then next to that was actually the bisque that we made from the shells and the head. So to be able to have those two flavors kind of coming together out of one ingredient, I think kind of best describes, what it is that we're also trying to do. How do you take great ingredient? How do you get it to the plate? And how do you get your customers to understand that we're trying to be able to deliver quality and innovation and an experience?
I didn't think I was going to be wanting shrimp so bad at 10:30 in the morning, but I could go for a plate of that right now.
It's not shrimp. It's langoustines.
Excuse me. Yes,
That's
langoustines.
right. I swear 10 times a day I'm running around. It's not shrimp. It's not shrimp.
That's what I remember.
You can call it prawns.
Yeah.
Or
Prawns, okay.
langoustines.
Okay. So prawn and langoustines are the same thing.
The shrimp is such a different product.
Okay.
Yeah,
This is a whole nother level.
Yeah, really. It is a different level. It's a different level. It's a different texture. It's a different flavor. And I think it's when you try it, you'll know.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best way to be able to say it. Is like if you don't know what they are, it's like eat it and you'll know.
Sure. So we've kind of laid the groundwork for where we are now, but I want to go back before then. John, what is your background leading into WorldClass?
So I opened a mortgage company, OnQ Financial, 2005 with 12 employees. We're the largest mortgage banker based out of Arizona. We're nationwide, top 50 in the country. We have over 300 employees now. I got a little bored with it. I mean, I love growing a business, and I'm just passionate about food. I love traveling, so me to go around and explore the best, hey, who are the couple of the top chefs? Let me start there. And then who are the best producers that you can refer me to? And so on and so forth. And then it takes, like in a country like Portugal or Argentina, and soon to be France now, and then after that, actually Japan now, France after, it takes months and numerous trips, because you're not just, hey, this producer has this product. We're looking for the best producer. We need to meet numerous producers, test it. But the chefs really help us a lot, the local chefs. And, this is my passion. It's kind of a lifestyle decision as well, to travel and work with the best chefs like Brent. And when I come back, it's like, this is a boring part. and to go around and meet at the best restaurants.
Well, and
to go to the best restaurants and live in a great place like Arizona. I mean, that so it is kind of a dream.
And you guys have a long list of restaurants that are using your guys' product. But one of the reasons why I thought Chef Brent would be such a fantastic person to kind of speak to the different ingredients is you've traveled around the world, as you touched on a little bit before, doing your work on yachts and whatnot. Talk a little bit about your background and kind of your exposure to the world cuisine, if you would.
So back in '94 is actually when I first kind of got on to motor yachts, and that was almost kind of by mistake. It was just like I met the right individual, and all of a sudden I found myself flying to the Caribbean. And I was not working as a chef. I was actually working as a deckhand. But that kind of led into an opportunity, where the on board the boat, the captain's girlfriend was the chef. My passion, just as a hobby, it had always been cooking. She wanted to take a vacation, so she took off for a month, and the captain says, hey, does somebody want to cook for the crew? And I said, I'll do it. He liked it enough. He actually gave me your salary and gave me the opportunity to play with all these ingredients. And when you're sitting in the south of France, you have opportunity to be able to go to some of the world's great food markets, from Cannes to Nice to Saint-Tropez. And we were just kind of going up and down the coast just as crew. And then we even made a day, like kind of not a day trip, but about a week-long trip over to Portofino. And all of a sudden, you're in Italian markets. And then that first experience kind of said, okay, I want to be able to get into the kitchen full time. So that's when I went and worked with an award-winning chef down in the Caribbean. And then that took me through the Panama Canal. And then that took me up to Alaska and to Vancouver and British Columbia. And then from there, that took me over to Asia, where I then studied, Thai food in Thailand, Vietnamese in Vietnam. I was just kind of sponge it all in. And then returning, back to work on other yachts, it gives you the opportunity to really work with the world's great ingredients, because they just don't have a budget. When you've got literally billionaires and heads of state and dictators and oligarchs, they just want what they want, and they know they want it to be great. They want to be able to have experience that is above and beyond what you're going to be able to see, almost anywhere else. And when you're on board a super yacht, these are vessels that are kept like Ferraris, but 200 foot of them kept like a Ferrari, and for ridiculous amounts of money. I know this one that I was working on. We were launched as a super yacht of the year, as Motor Yacht Paraffin. That was $500,000 a week before expenses.
Wow.
So tip, tax, food, booze, dockage, fuel. By the time you were done, you could be well over $600,000. For a week, for you and 12 of your guests too can enjoy this amazing experience. So again, these are not individuals that, one, they don't want to hear no, and two, they want to make sure that whatever they're going to get, it's like they're going to get, I wouldn't say their money's worth. They want to know that it's going to be amazing. And so I think that's one of the things that I appreciate about World Class is bringing that amazing to Arizona. I mean, it was such a find, and saying like, oh, by the way, why don't you try out, this Argentinian beef? Why don't you try out this caviar? Why don't you try out these prawns? That rainforest honey, I'd only heard about that when I was watching, Chef's Table, and reading about it. And so it has this incredible, almost like a fermented, flavor to it. And it's again, you just have to be able to try it, and that you've actually had something new and different. So from my own background, to be able to have the opportunity to travel through Southeast Asia, all through Europe, Adriatic, Mediterranean, Aegean, to going through Panama, heading down to South America, heading over to even the South Pacific, you just get to work with ingredients that not anybody else gets a chance to. You get to play with truffles the same way that people play with button mushrooms, and that was like the ultimate experience. But it's a little bit like being a professional athlete. After a while, you figure out that it takes its toll on your body and on your travel and your just time away from family. And I'd had a young family and decided it was time to step away. And that was back in 2009. And then that same individual that I was working on one of the yachts with, kind of recruited me away. And I opened up a restaurant in Massachusetts called the Farm Table. And that was my second foray into, again, just amazing ingredient. And that was truly finding the best products that were in the area where we were in Western Massachusetts. That's the bread basket of New England. So if you're looking for butternut, asparagus, blueberries, strawberries, peaches, apples, pears, beautiful tomatoes, everything that you'd want to have as the top of the top was somewhat nearby. Even, seafood, is within 100 miles, so you can get that gorgeous, halibut, cod, striped bass, oysters, Nantucket Bay scallops. I mean, again, that was, my chance to be able to be on land, but to work, with truly world-class ingredients. But, to do it from the farm to table side, so you know exactly where your food is coming from. You want to be able to know that it's going to be, sustainable as it can be. And, I love the fact, that, when John was talking about, making sure that it's line caught and they're not trying to destroy other species. The oceans have a kind of a soft spot in my heart, because I think that's, if you're talking about, protecting the planet and the rest of it, it's got to start with the oceans. That's where, so much of our food source, oxygen source, water source, that's where it begins. So a lot of my passion, for food, has got to be able to stem from, its source. And that's one of them.
So one of the ingredients that you guys import that we were able to try is the octopus. And that's something that, people in Arizona may or may not have tried, but it's obviously not readily available within, a couple miles. So speak to that ingredient a little bit specifically, and what kind of things that you're looking for and the quality of that, and why you ended up, having success bringing that in and chefs latched onto it.
Sure. First, thanks for all the kind words, Brent. The octopus is actually a very easy product for us. Octopus is octopus. It's from Portugal, Spain, or Morocco. It's basically exactly the same. There might be very little difference, let's say, from Morocco being a little warmer water, but we're talking like even most great chefs wouldn't be able to know the difference. The biggest difference are a couple things. Number one, how much water is added, which takes away from the yield, and how well it cooks. So if you're a chef, you're going to look at, wait a minute, I'm paying this much per pound, but I'm losing it because the water is coming right out. Secondly, it's not going to cook nearly as well when you add the water and then cook it with it and take it. So it's a little bit of a game. So normal octopus, let's say, has about 20 to 40% water added. Ours has 10%. So that's number one. Number two, so when I went and visited a lot of the processing plants where they clean the octopus in Portugal, some of them were really disgusting. And this is a very clean country. So imagine maybe other places. Well, all of them are great countries, those three. But can you imagine just the dirt and so on and so forth for a day? They don't clean it up for the whole day. Mm-hmm. It's just bubbling up. It's just it's really disgusting if you were to see it. The place we buy from, they're cleaning every 5 minutes. The water's going. They're literally emptying it out, putting new water in. The hose is coming the whole way. I mean, you can look at it when you see it in a frozen package, and it's just very obvious. So, it's not like it's for the langoustine prawns. I mean, we tested 9 different types because there's such a difference between one from another. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the squid that we're about to bring in from Argentina. There's levels where you could use squid, raw,
really?
or if you were to just take the rings and cook it, it'd be so soft, and that's the kind that we want, right? So we're bringing that in. But, the octopus it wasn't compared to some of these others that difficult, to be honest with you. Well, so it was just a matter of finding, what we wanted.
What's an example of one that maybe wasn't as straightforward as just finding the one you wanted, that took a little bit more digging? And then I figure that translates to chefs getting a little bit more excited about it.
So I just mentioned the langostinos. You have different seasons down in Argentina. You have the season where it's by the shore, you have the season where it's way out in the ocean. This one is 3-4 hours out in the ocean, close to Antarctica, very cold waters. But then even then we tested 9 different types. Another one that we're about to bring in that took a lot of effort was the black pig, acorn finished. And that is like the Wagyu beef of pork. Mm-hmm. A lot of people I know say that they like it better than Wagyu beef.
Really?
And we found, based on this took the Michelin chefs referring and so on and so forth, but the best between all of Spain, this is out of Spain, but between all of Portugal and Spain, the best in the whole world. And you need, and it's not like Wagyu where you can take the egg and the sperm and just recreate it in another country, because you need those acorn trees. Mm-hmm. Acorn trees are the trees that create, the corks with wine bottles. Well, those acorn trees are in Portugal and Spain, primarily. So it's a very special product from that region that is going to be phenomenal. It's very expensive, but we're also focusing on things that are, and I think some of the biggest opportunities are the value plays, like the squid. Mm-hmm. We're going to be bringing black cod in from Norway. That could be under $10 a pound.
Wow.
Portioned out, as good a quality as you could possibly think. So things like that for us are just like, wow, that'll just fly off the shelves, where the black pig is more of a, hey, here's a supercar if we're Porsche.
Sure.
It's $350,000.
Yeah.
Right? This is a $350 to $1 million product.
It's a supercar.
But it brings our world-class brand up. Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, if I can get these other products under $10 within the world-class brand, it's good for us.
Well, it seems like, one of the biggest values of your company is quality. And so if you can take quality, one ingredient that maybe isn't necessarily a supercar, but is at the level of quality, at least in terms of what's available, even though they're in different classes, putting them alongside each other and kind of curating a list of ingredients, right. I figured that gets you really excited. I was in here pretty recently, and I think you had a flatbread with some of the Iberico black pig on it. Is that correct?
Every once in a while we'll try to be able to bring those products in, so you can actually, again, if we do that flatbread and we put those kind of items on there, we won't cook it. We'll literally just drape that over the top of it, because you want the essence of that product to be able to shine through. The black-footed pig, or pata negra, it's one of the few breeds that can actually eat acorns and get the meat out of the acorn itself, but it lends such a specific flavor to the meat and the quality. But it's also, too, what they do with it after the fact. It's how they salt it, it's how they age it, and what you end up with is a product that truly, it's ethereal. He's not wrong. It is like the Kobe beef of pork. But once and like we actually have an Iberico chorizo that we carry on the menu. And that chorizo, we'd work with a bunch of other chorizos, because we also carry that. We use that on our octopus. So the octopus that we do here, we do it as a Spanish preparation. We do it with a chorizo. We do it with a spicy aioli. And we do it with the potatoes, which is, again, just and romesco, which is, piquillo peppers that are ground up with toasted almond and smoked paprika, essentially. That is just straight out of Spain. But honestly, the Spanish have figured out how to basically cook octopus. As long as you do it right, it's going to be great every single time. And that's one of our preparations we've had on the menu now for quite some time. But it had to come off because of the inconsistency that we were getting with Octopus with our different suppliers. So there is a difference. There really, really is a difference. You'll start getting, they look beat up. They're inconsistent size, where you usually buying from them, 6 to 8 pounders. But sometimes you get 2 to 4s, sometimes you get 6 to 8s, sometimes you get 4 to 6s. And to be able to plate with that consistently becomes hard. To be able to find a product that, again, it cooks and tastes, the tenderness. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I appreciate with what World Class does is they actually bring the ingredients in that that you're going to give yourself the best chance for success. That's why it originally went off the menu, because I wasn't getting that product and I was getting complaints. And I was like, all right, well, if it can't be perfect every single time, there's no point in having it on the menu. The consistency, that's the restaurants, that's the name of the game. You've got to be consistent. You've got to deliver every time. You can't have a plate or a plate here, a plate there that is off. They've all got to be good. They've all got to be on point every time, no matter what. That's success.
I like that.
Well, and that starts at sourcing, and even before then, right? It starts with line catching certain things and just doing things in a way that's not only sustainable, but is going to build quality, cleaning the octopus properly. So when you're vetting these people from around the world to bring in these ingredients, what does that process kind of look like? Are you doing taste tests? Are you going and touring every component of what they're doing?
So it starts with meeting the producers, personally going out there, meeting with them, okay? Now, I'm not right now going to Chile, but my product team has been with me for a while, so they're doing it. So I have a
they're
good
reaching
product.
out from here, making the connections.
They're both in
cold call
Argentina,
them.
but to
Okay.
go over to Chile from Argentina is not hard. Portugal, Argentina I started with. I hired those people. I've been the guy in Portugal personally, 4 trips in a row. So it starts there. Before there, it starts with referrals from the chef.
No.
Now, every time that we bring in even a pallet, much less a whole container, certainly when we're going to have the chef test it, and then we're going to have an outside firm actually test how much water's in here, how much this, how much that. Is it per the agreement that we signed with this producer? And so some of the things, we don't need to black cod come and say, hey, chefs locally, do you like we know this is the best black cod in the world already. I mean, Jose Avilés is like, this is one of the best producers. It's one of the best products that Portugal loves is black cod from Norway. And I've seen it personally twice, visited the factory. It's just like a perfect black cod. So some of these things that are under $10, black cod, octopus, squid, are some of the most exciting things for me, because if I can sell it for, let's say, 50 cents less than the average, and maybe of the low end of anyone, we're right there, and then the product is like top. I mean, we already have, between the black cod and squid, it's not even here until 45 days. They're on containers just leaving those countries. We already have 2 tons of each pre-sold per week.
Wow.
So, and it's just going to grow from there, because as prices are going up right now, yeah, everyone wants a sea bass because it's a luxury item, right? But it's not. It's cool to have some of these things that are value plays to mix in as well.
Well, to tell you the truth, I mean, I think black cod, we carry it on the menu, currently. I mean, I know I'll be a buyer when it comes in, without a doubt, just because it's one of my favorite fish. That's something that also, too, is a product of Alaska, and having spent a couple summers up in Alaska, that was one of those fish that I truly, truly fell in love with. And I think, Chef Nobu made it famous, with his miso marinated black cod. It is stunningly, stunningly good. I think our version of it as well is stunningly, stunningly good. But it's an insanely good fish. I mean,
Why?
And people don't say that, like, people want to relate it to cod, like a Atlantic cod. Not the most exciting of fish, but it is a great fish. I mean, the French, in French they call it cabillaud. Cabillaud in French is actually a very expensive fish. When treated properly, cod is incredible, but black cod is something a little bit different. It's deeper water, it's colder, it's higher fat content, it's just melt in your mouth, flakes away, white, sweet flesh. It's an incredible, incredible fish. And the things that you're able to do with that, and how you put that onto the plate, and especially bringing it at that price point, at least I can make some money. I mean, that's at the end of the game. We're trying to be able to make money what we're doing. I'm a business owner. I need to do that. That's what keeps us sustained. That's how I have a crew of employees that can be passionate, that we can pay them what we need to be able to pay them, so they can have a living wage. So I'm super excited to be able to see them bringing in the Black Cod, because for me, that's one of my key products that I know that we'll be able to absolutely crush it here.
It's funny you say that, because Roca Core is one of my favorite places around here, and their best cooked seafood, in my opinion, by far, is the Black Cod.
Really?
Yeah, and they do it with the miso.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really nice.
So,
and I'm hearing a lot of people, and it's a product that, based on our price point, these places that do huge volume with fish tacos, they can use this product that's just extraordinary.
yeah.
It'll make a huge difference.
So great products and great price points. Like, why hasn't this existed?
I would say great. We look to price the same or a little less.
Yeah.
For something that's equal, but
even-
some of these products
even
are so
comparable,
extraordinary,
even if
like
it's-
the honey. I mean, we're just way under. But if we price it where it should be,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be doing volume. So
Okay.
there's some of these products where it's a decision of, wait a minute, we could be half what this one should be, but we're still doing just fine. I mean, we're priced to grow, and because we're one tier all the way through, we're not splitting, right, the numbers.
You
And
think
so
that's
we
why
could-
that hasn't
So
existed?
I'll go into a restaurant, or my guys will go into a restaurant, my sales staff, and they'll say, hey, we want to be on every little part of your menu, and anything new we want to be. And if there's chefs are not the type that are just grinding you all the time, right? There might be a few places, but that's not normal. Typically, they're not asking. They might say, hey, I would buy this product if it was just a few bucks less a pound. Like, we have king crab from Chile. We can go pretty deep on that product because it's from Chile. Nobody else is bringing it up. And so we explain these things. And it's like, just tell us, because if you're growing with us, more times than not, we're going to say yes. So we really want it to grow. We want, whether it's an owner chef like Brent, or let's just say it's a normal chef trying to, do a good job for the restaurant, maybe hit their food cost bonus, labor cost bonus if it's portioned out like the cod. We really want everyone across the board, whether it's a chef, the restaurant, the customer, that's who I think of, when we're selling these products, all those parties. We want them all to have the wins.
Well, and so you touched on, how chefs have led you to these suppliers, but then also, you got to bring the stuff back and sell it to chefs again. And so, as with any business, very relationship based. How did you start forming these relationships? Was that happening long before WorldClass came around? And how are you continuing to show people what you guys are here for?
Yeah, so we just started selling just over a year ago, let's say, 15 months ago. The company is about a year and a half old, so we're a new company. We've grown very fast. When we started, I just went to some of the places that I like, that I go to a lot. I mean, I'm right next door to the Royal Palms, so thank you, Chef Lee. He was my first customer. Tarbell's.
Was he really your first customer? That's awesome.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, he is. Mark
Yes, he
Tarbell was our second customer. So thank you for that. And he's a legend, right, locally. Roca Core was one of the first. So I landed those, and I hired a couple salespeople. I went and, they started referring to us after that. So it's just been pretty fast. 9 months ago, we were just trying to get our SHIT together, right? And we weren't trying to press on the gas. We only had a couple salespeople. We were getting some logistics down. Some of the things that aren't so easy, like chilled beef from Argentina, we're figuring out. We had some problems. And nobody's 100% perfect, but I'd say we're pretty excellent at this point. So now we're hiring some other salespeople here. I'm actually moving to Houston just this afternoon.
Oh, really?
So now I'm going to roll at Houston. That's where our products are coming in. It's a great market, a little bigger than Phoenix. It's a little more diversity there, which plays well with our products, to be honest. So it's thriving, as is Arizona. So, yeah, very excited. That's our second market. I'm not going to move to every city for 4 months or so.
Yeah.
But, the second one I want to get right.
And so we've talked about this outside of the podcast before, but what is it about Houston that's drawing you there?
Well, like I said, the food's coming in through that port. Anything from Europe or South America is coming through the Houston port. So logistically, it makes sense. It's one of the top 5 largest cities. You look at Miami, Houston, Dallas, Phoenix, probably top 4 most booming cities for restaurants. And again, this wasn't the primary reason, but the fact that there's a little more diversity plays well because we're bringing products from all over the world. So that kind of plays well with our products. So it's a perfect fit, starting with the fact that we're bringing the food right into that port is the main reason.
Shows you how much I know about geography. I didn't even know Houston had a port. Like, it's in the middle of the state.
And that port does a lot better than California.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have the unions. You can bonus them to get things done, the workers, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So we like it a lot better.
Well, and it seems like, being not two-tiered and bringing it in these ways and really focusing on efficiency allows you to not only increase the quality because you're getting products in quicker, but you're also decreasing the cost, I would think, because, that's kind of what efficiency does. So how has that been, coming from a mortgage background, figuring out how these grand logistical systems work and bringing in all these exotic products?
So mortgage, you're competing with 1,000 companies that have a 30-year fixed loan, right? We're not competing with 1,000 companies of even no matter what the quality is. Yeah. And there's some things we're bringing that nobody even has at all, right? Yeah. So it's just a different scenario. It's much easier for me. And more exciting too. The fact that I'm more into it. Makes it a lot better.
Well, and so that seems like it would be much more relationship based than mortgages as well, because it's not the competition is much smaller, that it seems like it's much more person-to-person interaction. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, these days people typically don't even want to come in and meet with the loan officer. They probably just, as easy as it gets, it's just the opposite, let's say, with a chef, Brent, right? Or where they want to, if you're important, if you're making a difference, they want, hey, what else can we do? If they see a pattern of wins. So then those relationships become very easy. We are going to go direct to consumer in about 5 months.
Okay.
So that'll be nice, especially for some of the products like honey, because I just heard yesterday, I was out in some meetings, 2 people in a row were telling me, we're going to start selling the honey. Well, why is that? Basically, every person that's doing a charcuterie board is blown away and saying, can I buy some of this honey?
Oh, really?
Wow, that sounds amazing on a charcuterie board. Yeah.
So, Chef, from your perspective, when you're bringing in products and whatnot, is this a typical interaction working with importers like them, or is this, from your perspective, a unique situation?
Unique. Yeah, Arizona, I mean, everything has to be able to come in via distributors. It's hard to be able to go, direct to, the people that are either growing the product or bringing the product in. And also to people that are passionate about the product and knowledgeable about the product, that they know how to sell it. They know how to present it. They bring it with a sense of style. I mean, when I was in Massachusetts, working with the farmers directly, that was actually, it was a treat because you knew where your food came from. Arizona is obviously, we're a desert. Food's got to come in here from other sources, especially when it comes to seafood. But to try to be able to find, some of the best products, we do have amazing farmers that are here, and the ones that are here doing what they're doing do a great job, but they just don't have enough bandwidth to be able to supply everybody. And so, you have to be able to develop out relationships, with other people that are bringing it in. WorldClass is, certainly one of those individuals, one of those companies that's actually doing it, but doing it right. I appreciate the fact that they're doing it with the value in mind, that the quality in mind, because, for me, bottom line is, I can only be as great as the product that you put onto the plate. If you got a bad piece of fish, that's going to be a bad piece of fish for everybody in the restaurant. So, but to be able to have, the best piece of fish, it's like, I just can't overcook it. Let's put it that way, or undercook it for that matter. Do it right, and you'll end up with success. And that's all we're trying to be able to do is, again, working with our partners to try to be as successful as we both can be. And I think that's, working with John and WorldClass, and it has been pretty cool, going over to see, bringing me into his house to be able to see the products directly. He puts on a hell of a good show too, which it's great to be able to see it in action in front of people. It's entertaining, but it also, it's the best possible showcase for the product. And I think that's something that's also too really, really unique. And that's somebody that I'm not too sure I've ever had the opportunity to, go and see.
Well, and, as a business owner, you essentially are wearing a million hats, and you're always trying to figure out who else you can hand some of those hats off to, so you can pick up more hats and try and wear those and then do the whole thing again. And so it must be, it must instill a lot of confidence every time you're putting something on a plate to know that the person who is bringing in this stuff, being John, is actually going out and vetting and verifying and touring these facilities. I feel like a lot of importers or distributors don't have that close of a connection. Is that a feeling that you share?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, the consistency is everything. I can depend on the fact, like, again, I run a restaurant. I can't be the guy that is cooking every single plate that comes out there. You have to depend on your team, and I would say that, John and WorldClass, that's part of that team that makes every plate go out. It's not just, the guys that are in the kitchen and who do an insanely good job, but again, they're only as good as the products that are actually coming across their line. So that's why it's important to me to be able to make sure you develop those great relationships and to make sure that you bring in, what you need to be able to bring in.
Yeah. In my experience, you have vendors, right? Like if you're going to get T-shirt or something like that, it's a vendor. It's not always a super close relationship. Maybe it is a partner is kind of what WorldClass seems as they are, very involved in making sure that quality and consistency is maintained, of course. So circling back to some of the things that you guys bring in, what are a few more that we can revisit, or some of the new things that you guys are working to bring in that you could talk about a little?
Well, I want to also say on the consistency side and the quality side is just as much as I love to hear from the chefs, I love to hear from the producers. Okay. Because they also say, hey, Pete, usually the owner does not personally come out and visit our facility, get to know us, so on and so forth. So it's fun on both sides, honestly, and important.
Yeah, well, I don't know a lot of importers, but I can't imagine that all of them are flying around the world touring these facilities and getting in the weeds of it.
Yeah, and it's a pleasure.
It sounds pretty fun.
Yeah. That sounds cool.
Yeah, you need
really
a podcaster to travel with you. I might be able to convince my wife to let me do that.
Maybe. So what was the question again?
Just touching back on some of the things that you guys are bringing in, maybe some of the new things that you have in the works and why you're selecting these specific ingredients or products.
Okay. So again, it's easier to just focus on the proteins, and we are going to focus more on the proteins, specifically the seafood, right? Because, the beef in America is great. Argentine beef is also great. Wagyu is a whole different thing. It's more expensive. We're going to bring Wagyu in soon from Japan. Nabua is out there looking for that right now. But the seafood is something where we can really just differentiate ourselves. When you look at the countries that we're already in, Portugal, Argentina, Chile, we're now searching Japan. We're going to be going into Canada. I mean, that's a well-rounded. We're going to be bringing fresh fish in from Portugal. That's just not even available. And Portugal is basically, if you were to pick one country, so that'd be a great example of something new. If you were to pick one country in Europe of the best seafood, it'd be Portugal. If you had to pick one, because you've got the north and south with the ocean, with the currents, which is very similar to Japan. So you have all this fish coming from the south, all this fish coming from the north, eating each other and creating just amazing products. And there's a lot of great fish. Plus, it's a colder water. It's up beyond the Mediterranean. It's on the Atlantic Ocean. But the straits really make a difference there. To bring in fresh fish from Portugal is just incredible. And same with Japan. So we're going to be bringing fresh fish in from Japan. Now that might take more like 4 months, but to have that combination is a pretty unique combination, as well as some of the other things. So again, we're really focused on the seafood. We do have, let's say, a dulce de leche, which is a milk caramel. It's a tradition of Argentina. That's just like, wow. Yeah. And a lot of the chefs, they make their own caramel because it's not that hard, and maybe they're proud of it. But when they try this, it's different ingredients. And again, the labor costs, some people are down chefs. So that's kind of a hot product for us that's current.
Absolutely.
As well.
Did you mention a whiskey? Did you mention a Japanese whiskey or something like that before?
We're going to be looking for Japanese whiskey.
Okay.
But what we have coming, this is actually pretty exciting. We have Black Pig Acorn Finished Gin.
Wow.
Yeah. Huh. And did you try it at the party?
No, I didn't get a chance.
But yeah,
I need to drop you off a little.
Okay, now you got my attention.
I mean,
that sounds amazing.
It was ranked the number 2 gin in the whole world last year.
Wow.
In America, in the largest American contest.
Because I'm a gin drinker.
Yeah. And,
yeah.
And the aromas, it's not like a normal, we're talking aromas. I mean, it is, and that product, again, Portugal's a pretty good value play compared to buying product from Spain, France, or Italy. But you can get a lot of time, they're buying product from Portugal, like Octopus, like olive oil, and they're saying it's Italian, or Spanish, or because they're better marketers. So it's a pretty good value country. So the price point on that product, it should be in the mid 30s, and maybe we'll sell it there if it's very low volume. But if somebody's saying, "Hey, I'll put it on the mixed drink menu," we can get it in the mid 20s, and just have this incredible
Wow.
super unique.
top 2 in the world rated gins. So that's an exciting product.
How do they? How is it? Because I've had what was it? We went to Hush Public House, and he had an old fashioned where the whiskey was washed with like the
Fat washed with Little Miss barbecue brisket fat.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So is that kind of how? Is that what? How do you combine? Those
I can
two?
get it too. We're just now doing our first order.
Okay.
Our first handful of pallets.
Yeah, but is that how it is? Is that what it is?
I toured the facility. I'm not an alcohol. I mean, they have a small kettle. Like it's not like this high production.
Okay.
I mean, it's hand tight.
Yeah. Craft.
Yeah.
Like artisan.
Yeah.
When you go into these places, are you?
I'm going to make sure you get a little sample of that.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We could do a sampling here, a podcast 2.0. When you go into these countries, I figure generally you have an idea of what you're trying to get your hands on. But I mean, something like that, I didn't even know that existed before. Is that something you are going in, seeking out, or are you kind of having things fall in your lap and you're like, oh, we got to bring this back?
Yeah, that fell completely on our lap.
Uh-huh.
I mean, of course we're going to go in saying we want Octopus in Portugal. I mean, everyone knows that. We want Black Pig Acorn Finish. Everyone knows that, right? But yeah, that was just way out there.
And so,
there's some of those things that you're just like, wow, it just happens to be in that country.
And is that just, being out there and trying all these new things, and maybe you're having some Black Pig and someone's like, oh, you got to try this gin? Is that how these things are falling?
Well, you start off with some referrals from, let's say, the top couple of Michelin chefs, right? And then from there, but then when you start meeting people, the producers, and they're saying, well, what about this? There's this or that, or, they get excited with what we're doing. They're very excited.
So what are some of your favorite examples of your products being used around the valley specifically?
I mean, I don't know about favorite. I mean, there's so many.
Some that come to mind. How about that?
There's 150 restaurants already. I mean, I can speak to the last few nights. I mean, last couple nights. 2 nights ago, I was at Lam Juan's.
Yes.
And they take our Chilean king crab. And Sonny, the chef owner, Alex and Shani are the wife and husband. So Sonny from Thailand does a yellow curry with Chilean king crab. I've never had anything. It's her mother's recipe from Thailand.
Wow.
And it's just with sticky rice on the side. It's just tasty.
Yeah.
Like extremely tasty.
It's
And
a cool
unique.
spot, too.
It's really, really nice. Their pork belly, which isn't our product, which is phenomenal too, by the way. And then I was at Chico Mal last night. They have our sea bass, they have our steaks, they have our langoustines. The way he did everything was so phenomenal. Ivan is the head chef there, great guy. I mean, especially the langoustines, he did 2 different ways, and one of them, he took the special sauce, which I won't disclose, but it's within the langoustino itself. And then he took the meat separately, so it's just easy to grab and dip. And it's just like, especially for an affordable. I mean, yeah, it might not be a cheap Mexican, but it's very affordable for kind of a nice, higher quality Mexican.
Yeah.
And to have that kind of product affordable at an affordable restaurant. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and go through all the examples, but those were the last 2 nights that I thought were exceptional.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, and you said you have them at about 150 different spots?
150 spots right now.
And how many total products approximately?
20. The next 10 will be here in the next couple months or so.
I mean, that's pretty fantastic growth for, you said, what, 15, 16 months that you guys have been at it?
Yeah.
And so what is kind of your future looking like right now? I know you talked about Dallas and whatnot, but kind of give us the big picture.
So we're going to probably be in maybe 10 cities. We're not looking to go to every city. That'll take maybe 3 years to do it right. And then we're going to do direct-to-consumer in about 5 months as well. And I think they'll play off each other. Like, let's say somebody has something like our honey and everyone wants to buy it, and, especially the resorts,
Yeah.
could go through pallets a week, if they're a huge resort, right? And that just gets it out there. So, I think it all ties together nicely. It's not going to be cheap online, so there'll be no risk of our customers saying, hey, we're selling this for this and it's this. So it's all going to tie together very, very nice and actually benefit back to the restaurant too once we grow that brand. So, yeah, that's our future. It's not that complicated. It's just more the logistics.
And how many countries do you anticipate importing from?
Well, we have 24 .coms that we own, from Japanese.com to French.com to Mozambique, Moroccan, Egyptian, Brazilian, Colombian, Chilean. So we spend a lot of money on that from a marketing standpoint. I don't tell everyone that, but since you asked. But really, that's just because we're able to get for a good price, and we can, write blogs. And let's say you say, Portuguese cheese. Well, if you own Portuguese.com, you're going to come up faster. Mm-hmm. All those will be under the mother company, WorldClass, and tied to it when we get those leads. But that's part of our marketing vision. But really, it's just whatever the best. I mean, there's places like Mexico, like India, where they want so much for their .com. There's places like Thailand or Norway where it's airline company. It's not just, we didn't need to own the website. I mean, we're bringing the black pig in from Spain. Which is, so it could be just wherever the products are, basically. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're not going to spread thin if it doesn't make sense logistically. But, that's a game plan. I mean, Japan definitely next. And from there, probably, Scotland, France to round out Europe nicely. And then we're going to circle back to South America, explore Brazil, Colombia. That's kind of our next things that we're looking at.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us today. I think Eric definitely wants to be your resident
I'm just
podcaster
thinking, how
traveling
can I
around the
pitch
world.
this to Jackie? How will she be okay with this? Yeah, I'll take one of the kids with me.
I mean, that's a good way to show them the world, right?
Kids are very good taste testers too. They will tell you exactly, like, this is not good.
I know they're good salespeople.
Yeah.
If I want to sell Brent something,
for
the first time that I meet him, I'll try to bring my kids.
Awesome. Well, Chef, thank you so much for giving us some commentary and some thoughts on things. John, thank you for telling us your story, and we're excited to try some more of your guys' creations soon.
Yeah, and I wanted to say I ate here only once because it's not close, but I'll be back when I'm back from Houston. Brent's a phenomenal chef. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's being humble, but he cooked for Bill Allen, some of the top billionaires from Russia, where their yachts are being taken. I mean, he is a foodie. So if you can make it here, it's a really, really good spot.
Big fan right here as well. He is. I haven't been here myself, but I was very impressed with the beer selection. You're a great guy, so I'll be back here.
Last time I was here, I had a flatbread. I've tasted the Wagyu filet. Tasted the cheese board. Everything I've had here is fantastic. The beer selection's great, and you've always got Arizona Star on, which for some reason every time I come in, that's the beer I get is Arizona Star Pale Ale from Brent House. So
great beer.
Big local supporter, tremendous food and drink here at the Mick, and pretty soon there will be probably what sounds like some more world-class product on the menu, both by name and by nature. And with that, thank you all for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,